Lookuptv across all your social media platforms. My name is Simba Kiage. Thank you very much for choosing to begin your day with us right here on the Morning Briefs. Questions that we're not so sure about is essentially whether we are deep into the El Nino season. Because if you look at what the Met Department is saying, the Met Department is saying, well, a lot of rainfall is getting witnessed across many parts of the country. Because the president did say, well, there's no El Nino, so we're not so sure exactly what the starting point is going to be in as regards the news about El Nino. Because then if we say the El Nino is right here, and the president said that, well, we do not have El Nino, then you do wonder where you are getting that authoritative communication from in as regards the news around the rains in the country. Well, we leave it there. Other news that we're going to look at this morning, the president is saying, well, you see, a promise takes time to mature. And he was in church this weekend and he said, well, you see, even when God promises, it's not essentially something that happens immediately. It's that you've got to wait for a promise to manifest. It was in Mombasa this weekend. We're going to look at a couple of issues that he touched on. The promises is continued to give a lot of residents then in Mombasa. We're going to look at them on a deeper basis this morning as we ask the question, how do you view a promise? When you promise, a promise is time bound, isn't it? When the president says in 6 months, the coastal region is going to have a lot of fish landing sites. Is that not time bound, or is it going to get to next year July and say, well, you know, a promise takes time to manifest? Well, we look at that again this morning. That plus many more, including Gachagua saying that indeed is not interested about kingpin politics in the central part of the country. He's saying that particular position is open for any other person to get into or to try and capture that particular or prestigious title for central part of Kenya, kingship, or is that kingpinship, if there's a word like that. That plus much more, and also touch on a couple of news about disgruntled Arsenal fans who are now calling out on VAR, or is it PGMOL, to stand up and live up to their true promise of sticking to making football matters better in the EPL. All right, we take a tiny breather. Once we come back, then we'll be jumping straight into the newspapers this morning, where we get to share exactly what it is that you're waking up to as well. So let's start with the Daily Nation this morning. The ratings continue. Remember, just before last week, we were looking at the best performing governors. Now we've been given the best 150 members of parliament. Guess who's leading? Ndidi Nyoro at 70%. That is according to the Daily Nation. All the way to 68%. Kibwezi West Member of Parliament, Mutuse E-Commerce Mwengi. All right, talking about the best 50 members of parliament. On what level? On what level? How do you rate a member of parliament? What is the responsibility of a member of parliament? The constitution is quite clear, isn't it? It is essentially to talk about government laws and talk about the bills that are discussed in the government, isn't it? Or in the National House. Other than that, they are already managing a CDF kitty, which, as we do know, the bombers of Kenya talks want to entrench in the constitution. Other than that, it is essentially how they represent your views and talk about matters in the National House, isn't it? Well, Ndidi Nyoro here is at 70%. All right? Now, majority of Kenyans think members of parliament have performed well since they were elected into office last August, with the Kiharu member of parliament, Ndidi Nyoro, topping the charts, according to a new InfoTrack poll. Or is your member of parliament here? Are they in the top 20? Well, read that particular story then on pages 2, 3, and 4. All right, impeachment, Kawira moment of truth as Senate decides her fate. We'll talk about that this morning as well. Embattled Meru Governor Kawira Mwangaza is facing a make or break week at the Senate as a 2-day impeachment trial starts tomorrow. We talk about that this morning. That's covered on page 6. Now we can talk about El Nino, isn't it? Weatherman now warns heavy rains in the country. Now Weatherman has warned Kenyans to brace themselves for more heavy rains for the next 3 months, warning of flooding and landslides in several parts of the country. Well, the Daily Nation is called it El Nino. The president said, well, we do not have El Nino. We have not seen the president also come back and say, well, El Nino rains are here. And the weatherman is also not talking about the El Nino. The weatherman is also talking about heavy rains, which is which. We read that particular story on page 8. UK envoy, we are open to talks on reparations. That particular story covered on page 7. 9 counties record high surge in new HIV cases. Read that story on page 5. 17,680 new HIV infections among adults. 41% are aged between 25 and 34. Now you do know. On the back page, there's a story here about how Oberi is just too strong in women's race. Also read that particular story in your sports, daily. Good. All right. This morning, let's cross over to the Standard as well. There's a story here of how not to bring down cost of living. Now, economy experts fault the president's approach to taxation and the cost of living, saying the policies will only sink the country deeper and mire and push many to avoid paying taxes, which ultimately make life unbearable. That particular story covered on pages 4 and 5. Now, IEBC reforms versus right of representation. At least 7 regions are scheduled to hold by-elections. However, without a fully constituted electoral commission, Kenyans in these places without a fundamental right. That particular story covered on page 8. All right, NEP leaders call for help amid flooding. Now, whereas the current rains have been downgraded from El Nino type for northeastern, they are causing a humanitarian crisis. Who's this? Who downgraded them from the El Nino type? It's not the Met department, is it? All right, that story covered on page 6. And on a health standard, you're going to read about how if you have a low spam count, then you can blame the mobile phone that is in your hand. Good. Pages 2, you're going to read about the winners and losers as dialogue team wraps up, and being a mother in Gaza, a matter of life and death. That story covered on pages 21. It's a long, lonely walk for Ateta. I do not agree. It's not a lonely walk for Ateta. This is coming from this weekend's EPL matches, where indeed it is just a conversation that is a tough conversation. It's just a long and lonely walk for Teta, because even Pep, not Pep, but the likes of Man United, the likes of Chelsea, the likes of Liverpool have a what to say about this. This one, we take a tiny breather. Once we come back, I'll be taking you straight to the newsroom where we get to see what it is that you're waking up to this morning as well. Welcome back. Now, President William RUTO has assured the owners of the Dongo Kundu parcel of land that the government will ensure that they are fully compensated. As Ian Ketani now files, the president, however, issued a stern warning that only genuine landowners who reside in the area will be compensated, pouring cold water on concerns over the privatization of the Mombasa port.
Months after the government secured 150 billion shillings for the development of the Dogo Kundu Special Economic Zone in Likoni, Mombasa County, with the projects in the area stalling due to the compensation duties, President William RUTO has categorically insisted that only genuine landowners will be compensated, citing plans to defraud the government through the compensation process.
Ile matatizo tulikuwa naye pale Dongo Kundu ya watu wanaoishi hapo, nimeweka mpango maalum bila ufisadi, bila ukora, bila watu matapeli kutusumbua. Wale watu tutalipa pale ni wale wako pale, sio watu wanaishi mahali pengine. Nilipatiwa list ya wale watu wanapaswa kulipwa. Nikauliza, wewe kama wewe ni mtu ya Nakuru, tunakulipa kwa sababu gani mambo ya Dongo Kundu? Dongo tunalipa wale wanaishi hapo. Si ndio? Sababu ilikuwa ni list ya ufisadi na ukora.
With the concerns being raised regarding the privatization of the Mombasa port, President Ruto moved with speed to clear the air on the matter, while hinting at plans to bring in more investors to the region.
Hakuna port itabinafsishwa ama itafanywa kuwa private. Niliwaahidi ya kwamba nitarudisha port operations mahali ilikuwa imepelekwa kule Nairobi irudi pwani. Na hiyo ni kazi ya kwanza nilifanya wakati nilichaguliwa kama rais. Lakini kurudisha port operations peke yake hapa haitoshi. We need a whole port development plan. Na ndio sababu tumetangaza vile tutakuwa na concession ya muda ambaye watu wataleta investment zao.
The president further insisted on the need for local training colleges and TVETs to introduce specialized courses in a bid to unlock the full potential of the region's blue economy.
Nataka hiyo college pamoja na TVETs ambazo ziko hapa zitusaidie na training ya vijana ambao watatusaidia ku unlock potential ya blue economy. Ile rasilimali tuko nayo kubwa ya blue economy katika sehemu hii. We need the correct human capital, the correct training, the correct skills ambayo itatusaidia, kwa sababu hapa baharini katika makadirio yetu kwa sasa tunapata karibu shilingi bilioni 15 bilioni 20 ya mapato katika bahari hii, lakini potential yake ni between 120 and 150 billion shillings every year.
And as his government continues to receive backlash due to the number of unkept promises, President Ruto, in his defense, took to the scripture in what looked like a plea to Kenyans to accord him more time.
Kumbe ahadi kutimia inahitaji subra. Naona sababu tunasumbuka sana kwa sababu hatujaelewa vizuri. Kumbe hizi ahadi nimetoa, kumbe kuna muda hapa ya kungoja ndio iweze kuti. Sasa zingine hata mimi nauliza mbona hii ahadi imechukua muda mrefu? Kumbe nakosa kuelewa, kumbe iko kungoja hapa katikati.
Ian Keitani, Lookuptv.
So there's a message to everybody then that if I promise you something, you have to be patient. If I tell you it's going to be done in 6 months, it takes 2 years, I mean, just be patient. Now, as the row between Kiambu governor and the members of county assembly deepens, with the latter threatening to oust the county chief, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has been forced to intervene and quell the disquiet. Gachagua, while attending a church service in the county, vowed to ensure the issues surrounding the county are solved and is set to convene a meeting with leaders from the county tomorrow. Ruga Ival with the details.
The Deputy President has called for a meeting for all Kiambu leaders with a view to address the disharmony that is affecting development agenda in the county, despite being the first bloc that supported the ruling administration.
We are all serving the people of Kiambu. Zote tulichaguliwa na tikiti ya chama moja. Sasa hii mapigano, siku tulitafuta kura tulikuwa tunapendana. Tulikuwa tunatembea gari moja. I want them to come. Na president ameniambia we cannot let Kiambu go to the dogs. We cannot. And I have set aside the whole day tomorrow. Kutoka saa moja mpaka usiku.
On his end, the leader of majority Kimani Ichung'wah has ridiculed the Kiambu egoistic leaders who has adamantly restrained from solving underlying issues instead of focusing on projects that are beneficial to residents.
We have only had the singular agenda of how we realize the dreams and the aspirations and the promises that we made to the people of Kiambu. As our governor rightly says, let us put our selfish political interests aside. Let us also put our egos, drop them down. Let us come and reason together for the benefit of our people.
Nonetheless, Kiambu Governor Kimani Wamatangi is urging the leaders from Mount Kenya region to keep off political wrangles driven by selfish interest and instead push for the region's development agenda He said the region could plunge into a situation of public shame due to leaders infighting.
We will never be forgiven by generations if we use this opportunity to promote interboundary and personal conflicts, that instead of joining together to change this country and to change this region, that we waste and squander the opportunity and fail to deliver on the vision and the wishes of our people.
Rigathi continued to call for a unified Mount Kenya region in order to garner massively in the Kenya Kwanza administration, insisting they must agree to work together. Gachagua has discouraged the Mount Kenya kingpin narrative, which is in circulation, saying that it is pointless, as he urged leaders to be on the lookout, not to be diverted from the mandate and the reason they were elected for.
I have no time or desire to aspire for any other office, because ile kazi mimi nimepewa na rais Bishop, my day starts at 5 and ends at midnight. It's already too much. If I just tell you my duty so that you know, I have no time for that kingship nonsense. You know, sina hiyo time, because mimi niko busy. You know, I'm too busy that I can hardly cope.
Ruga Evil, Lookuptv.
Well, that position is open then. If you want to be the central part of Kenya kingpin, it is there for you. Now, the National Lands Commission has been petitioned to intervene in the row over the ownership of the 141-year-old Memorial Hospital land in Nakuru County. As Ivy Wangulu now files, the county government has been faulted over the illegal process used to acquire the facility, with leaders led by former lawmaker Kimani Ngujiri blaming the suffering of over 200 members of staff on a county government, terming their takeover as an act of impunity. Let's take a look.
Mwenyezi Mungu, tunakuomba kwa sababu hatuna nguvu. Wakora na watu ya corruption wamesumbua nchi yetu ya Kenya.
As the row surrounding the takeover of the private facility by the county government continues to elicit mixed reactions from various quarters, calling on the National Land Commission to intervene.
Tusaidie watu wetu waingie katika ile shamba yetu ya rali Nyakenywa. Ile tumekaa hivyo, mheshimiwa amesema for the last 40 years tumekuwa nje. Na tuko na title deed kama vile mheshimiwa ameonyesha, lakini sisi kukanyaga kule tunaambiwa mambo ingine.
Political leaders from the region, led by former Bahati Member of Parliament Onesmus Kimani Ngunjiri, have flouted the county government over the takeover, insisting that no legal process was followed in acquiring the land. The lease title for the memorial land was issued in 1922 for a period of 99 years, and the attempt to extend the lease in 2019 were turned down by Nakuru County following acquisition by the county government to have forged payment certificates to acquire a further extension of 50 years.
The county government messed very badly because they used dictatorship. Impunity.
County Secretary Samuel Maura has nevertheless maintained that the land has been reverted back to the government following the gazettement of the lease title given in the name of Nakuru War Memorial Hospital Limited, noting that the lease title for the land was issued to the War Memorial in 2010, effective 1922, for a period of 19 years. The same was supposed to lapse on April 30th, 2021. Despite the management never being questioned for ownership, Mr. Simon Mwangi, a member of the management board, moved to court questioning its takeover and closure, and was later granted 21 days to file a formal application before the court.
They came and cheated our officers in Nairobi. There was no file of that hospital. Maybe have been stolen or something like that. You know, the corruption is everywhere. And when they went to renew the lease, they changed and they wrote War Memorial Hospital Limited. Wakaweka jina Limited. What is the meaning of limited? When the ministry discovered that, they instructed the registrar in Nakuru to cancel that entry, and it was cancelled. So when the land is finished the lease, it goes to who? Land Commission and LSC. That's why it goes according to our law. And because it was cancelled, it's for them now, the trustee, to apply for the renewal of the lease. And that's where the law says, when it goes to NLC Land Commission, the trustee should apply, and NLC, they should decide which other interests are there.
The county has further issued a warning to individuals occupying public lands to vacate or be evicted. Ivy Wangolo, Lookuptv.
Guess what then? We're going to look at a promise that the president has made to the residents of Mombasa. And this is what he said here. The fish landing sites will be completed by June 2024. Fish landing sites in Mombasa will be complete by June 2024 as we work on the export of fish products from Kenya. But then the president turns around and says, but you see, these promises that I've been giving you, I've also been wondering why they're taking a long time to mature. So he says, if God can promise you, and then you take a bit longer for you to realize whatever God has promised you, also me, when I promise you, if I tell you it's June 2024 and it doesn't happen, please be a bit patient. But then, on the sidelines of that promise, there was money that he said that he had gone with to Mombasa, 700 million worth, so they can get those fish landing sites complete by June 2024. Where are we in as regards the promises that the president is making? There has been noise across the country, especially when the president is talking about these promises. It's now up to you and I to interrogate that this morning. That plus many more. I do have the two Erics in the house. They're ready then to go head to head as well this morning. I'll introduce the gentlemen who are joining us this morning as we start this conversation. How are you doing, sir?
Introducing the Kenya Trade Fair Fusion Sales Drive event in the heart of Nairobi at the Kenya National Archives. It's not just an event, it's sales generation with a remarkable return on investment. Get ready to let your booth do the talking as you study new market trends with lots of entertainment featuring traditional live bands, DJs and artists. For vendor registration, call 0724 715 334 or 0713 907 584 or 0723 861 173.
Today we are at Precious Children's Home here at Dawn Home, and we've come to give out some food donations and have a good time with the children over some lunch.
My name is Jennifer Njeru, the director of this children's home.
Tell us a bit about the children's home. How many kids do you have here?
Okay, I started this home in 2015 with about 6 kids. These kids are orphans, but some of them are orphans, some of them are from those needy families. Yes. And then I get them through the chief, the pastors and friends who know about them. Yeah, I have 23 right now in the home. Okay, and then I have 5 in high school who are not here with us. You brought us lots of food. We didn't have food. We only had 1 bale of unga bugari, which only takes 3 days. It will be through. But the food that you brought us is a lot. We are so happy. Extra happy. And may you continue coming.
So of course, remember 25% of your Lotto ticket goes towards the Lotto Foundation, helps different charities across the nation.
Okay. So thank you so much to our players. We are able to do this because of you. So we are very thankful.
Every time you play Lotto, 25% goes to the Lotto Foundation, which supports our fellow Kenyans through various causes. Thank you for your help. Together, we are changing lives.
Are you looking for an office space? 4th Avenue Towers is a professionally designed 25-story executive office that is conveniently located at the heart of the Medical and Legal Services Square within community area. The office is easily accessible from both Valley Road and Ngong Road. Professionals and business people now have the opportunity to own a premium piece of office space, the optimum choice for the modern professional. Key utilities include 24-hour security with CCTV surveillance, high-speed internet access, ample and secure parking, high-speed elevators, power backup generator, open rooftop and a restaurant. 4th Avenue, an amazing product of Fusion Capital. Fusion Capital, rooted in the African growth story.
Infinity Industrial Park is one of the largest private industrial parks located along Eastern Bypass, Nairobi, which provides modern infrastructure for smooth operations for industries and business enterprises. Infinity Industrial Park offers world-class amenities and facilities with wide roads, a police station, a power substation, fire station, public transport stage, hospital, and shopping mall. In addition, Infinity Industrial Park also offers CCTV cameras, 24-hour private armed security patrol, sewer, water, fiber optic cable, and 3-phase power connection, added to public utility, canteen, and dining areas. Sail on the golden opportunity to invest in Infinity Industrial Park fully serviced warehouses at a special price of 3,569 Kenyan shillings per square foot. For more inquiries, visit our website infinityindustrialpark.com.
At Lookuptv across all your social media platforms, I am at Kiage Simba on X. Well, there's just a lot that we have to talk about this morning, and it's a good thing that I do have Bruno and the two Erics in the building this morning. Just before we look back at exactly what's going on in the country this morning, there's just a lot that we have to talk about, all the way from the wars that are essentially knocking at Kagwira Mwangaza's door. As from tomorrow and Wednesday, she will know exactly whether she's going home or essentially remaining as the governor of that particular county. But that aside, because it's going to come later on, let's talk about a bigger story that indeed you do know, depending on where you are in as regards the promises that the president has been giving you. It is common knowledge now, and I do not know what Eric Mungai is going to talk about this morning, that the command that the president used to have during campaigns, when he used to dish promises to his supporters, is no longer there. I mean, we will go back and run a couple of clips for you in as much as how he tries to ignite the crowds. They're all shouting about the problems that they are facing, or they are dimly lit, if I may use that particular one. Now, this weekend, the president sort of looked at why is it that people are not excited nowadays when I speak to them. He sort of got a revelation, and he said, well, and this is it in charge. It's like, even him has been wondering why the things that he thinks would have happened a long time ago are just about happening now. Then he said, you see, the thing is, if I promise you something, it's got to take time, so please be patient. But then, critics are saying, but your promises are time-bound. Your promises have money attached to it. So, ladies and gentlemen, for any other person who's looking to indulge us this morning, just before I introduce the panel that's joining us this morning, I want us to watch the president this weekend. He was in Mombasa, and he made promises, but even when he was making these promises, the revelation came true. Let's watch, come back and talk about it.
Months after the government secured 150 billion shillings for the development of the Dogo Kundu Special Economic Zone in Likoni, Mombasa County, with the projects in the area stalling due to the compensation jitters, President William Ruto has categorically insisted that only genuine landowners will be compensated, citing plans to defraud the government through the compensation process.
Ile matatizo tulikuwa naye pale Dongokundu ya watu wanaoishi hapo, nimeweka mpango maalum bila ufisadi, bila ukora, bila watu matapeli kutusumbua. Wale watu tutalipa pale ni wale wako pale, sio watu wanaishi mahali pengine. Nilipatiwa list ya wale watu wanapaswa kulipwa. Nikauliza, wewe kama wewe ni mtu ya Nakuru, tunakulipa kwa sababu gani mambo ya Dongokundu? Dongokundu tunalipa wale wako, wale wanaishi hapo, si ndio? Sababu ilikuwa ni list ya ufisadi na ukora.
With the concerns being raised regarding the privatization of the Mombasa port, President Ruto moved with speed to clear the air on the matter, while hinting at plans to bring in more investors to the region.
Hakuna port itabinafsishwa ama itafanywa kuwa private. Niliwaahidi ya kwamba nitarudisha port operations mahali ilikuwa imepelekwa kule Nairobi irudi pwani, na hiyo ni kazi ya kwanza nilifanya wakati nilichaguliwa kama rais. Lakini kurudisha port operations peke yake hapa haitoshi. We need a whole port development plan. Na ndio sababu tumetangaza vile tutakuwa na concession ya muda ambaye watu wataleta investment zao.
The president further insisted on the need for local training colleges and TVETs to introduce specialized courses in a bid to unlock the full potential of the region's blue economy.
Nataka hiyo college pamoja na TVETs ambazo ziko hapa zitusaidie na training ya vijana ambao watatusaidia ku unlock potential ya blue economy. Ile rasilimali tuko nayo kubwa ya blue economy katika sehemu hii. We need the correct human capital, the correct training, the correct skills ambayo itatusaidia, kwa sababu hapa baharini katika makadirio yetu kwa sasa tunapata karibu shilingi bilioni 15, bilioni 20 ya mapato katika bahari hii, lakini potential yake ni between 120 and 150 billion shillings every year.
And as his government continues to receive backlash due to the number of unkept promises, President Ruto, in his defense, took to the scripture in what looked like a plea to Kenyans to accord him more time.
Kumbe ahadi kutimia inahitaji subra. Naona sababu kumbe tunasumbuka sana kwa sababu hatujaelewa vizuri. Kumbe hizi ahadi nimetoa, kumbe kuna muda hapa ya kungoja ndio iweze kuti. Saa zingine hata mimi nauliza, mbona hii ahadi imechukua muda mrefu? Kumbe nakosa kuelewa, kumbe iko iko kungoja hapa katikati.
Ian Keitani, Lookuptv.
It's going to be that. And that's where we're going to start from. Well, how are you doing, sir?
Fine, thank you, Elijah. I told you the other time, if I call you Simba, then I'm referring to some very funny people down there back in the village. But it's good you're back. I hope you went to Kisii and did some good job, because
it was good.
We were told you went there. Oh, Shambani.
Who's in Shamba?
I think Ragalo will tell us more about the Shamba thing.
Here's the thing. I want to ask you a question. Yeah? Just as an introduction then to, as this morning, if you promise me,
yes,
I'll see you tomorrow, and then you don't come tomorrow, have you broken that promise?
You haven't broken the promise, because no, I can tell you we are going to meet tomorrow,
and then
but
you don't come.
It is subject to the conditions that are there between now and tomorrow.
No, but you said
because there are possibilities of you not turning up. You yourself, I promised you, but you don't turn up. I myself do not turn up. But you see, we can always reschedule that promise and that meeting.
Can I rephrase that question?
Please do, because I know what you really want to. You want to tie the president to the promise.
If you tell me tomorrow, Simba, I'm buying you lunch.
Yes.
In fact, at 12:30 p.m., I'll send you 1,000 shillings for lunch.
What happens?
And then you don't send.
What happens if the M-Pesa is not working? How do I send? How do I send? No, you are making assumptions. These promises are made on the assumption that things are going to work perfectly well in a perfect environment. But we don't live in perfection. We live in situations where things change over time. And I know where you are driving this to, but I want to tell you that promises are not. The president does not rule by decree. So when the president, I know that is what you are driving to. Now, I mean that is where we are going. That is. But if I promise,
it was an introduction.
Fine.
It was an introduction.
Fine. Now, if I promise, they say a promise is a debt, right?
As it?
A promise is a debt. Yeah. But you cannot. It is bound. It cannot be always bound by time, and we live in an imperfect society.
That's
all right.
It. That's it.
It's an imperfect society.
That's it. Rono, correct. I'm going to come to you. Let's do an introduction. Ragalo. For the promises. Ragalo.
I keep my promises. I promise to be here
Ragalo. For the sake of the conversation. Okay. For the sake of the conversation. Because I want you to top up this conversation. Can I ask Mr. Mungai that question?
Where are you
please, just right now, just Ragalo. I want you to be informed just before you answer that question, please. Mr. Mungai,
yes.
If I promise you tomorrow,
yes.
We're going to meet at 1:30 p.m. for lunch, all right? And I actually text you that, Mr. Mungai, tomorrow at 1:30 p.m. at this and this particular hotel, I'll meet you for lunch. Please be there. Then you turn up there, and Simba is not there. Then I tell you, oh man, I thought you were going to wait. Have I not broken our promise?
Thank you very much,
Mr. Mungai. Just a direct answer.
Yes, first.
Yeah.
No, wait. Let
Mr. Mungai, please don't frame your thoughts when I do that introduction.
Let me
Mr. Mungai.
Good morning to the viewers.
That's it. We lost it.
You know, the work of an animal called Simba is to pounce. So I want to say first, good morning to the viewers. I promised I would be here today morning, and luckily I am a man of my promises. And sometimes when you make promises, there are instances you will not be able to deliver those promises. And it is human and it is natural. In fact, the Bible talks about patience and perseverance. And what I think the president was trying to say is that good things come to those who wait.
Yes, just Mr. Mungai, just before you defend the president.
Good things.
It's okay. You've made your intro. Just leave it there. Just, please leave it there. Please leave it there.
But I want to say that I, on a personal level, I am a man who keeps my word.
That's it. It should end there.
I emulate the president a lot also. Sometimes I also wonder why I promise people things and then things take time. Even things I promise myself, I keep wondering also why I promise people things and then those things take time. Someone tells me nitakusort, then they don't sort me. I think it's a national problem.
Just leave it there. Mr. Regalo, how are you doing, sir?
I'm well, thank you. Elijah, first of all, I want to put this respect to God, that when God promised, He delivered. And when you pray God, there are three things that would happen. He will deliver immediately.
Yes.
He will ask you to wait, because you will have to wait, and there will always be a no. But when God promises, that's when you pray and request. But when He said, I will do, surely He will do. He said, I will deliver you from captivity and take you to Canaan. The Israelites found themselves there. Okay? When He promised, I will give you food in the desert, they woke up, they found manna. God on earth is up. Those people who lead, who are our elders.
Yes.
When you were born, your God on earth is your father and your mother. When they promise you, we will do this, they surely, our parents did. And you could see them straining to make sure it happens, even when it was not doing. Some of us came from poor backgrounds. You could see them straining to make sure you go through school. The promise of good education, they made sure. Even as they were walking barefoot, they made sure you had a shoe to go to a secondary school. That is the Father on earth. And that's why in our Father, we pray for them.
Yes,
It's
sir.
part of the prayers. We pray for them. And then in the commandments, we still have them there to be given respect. The second fathers on earth are political leaders. The Bible says, respect since they come from me. Okay? And still the Bible in 1 Samuel says, ye you who vote wrong leaders, when you cry, God will not listen to you. Because God has given you knowledge, not ignorance. So when you listen to the leaders on earth promising you,
yes,
look at what can happen, which cannot happen, or what is just storytelling. So, and I'm telling you, those are the three gods I know. God the Father in heaven, God the earth, our parents, meaning grandfather, father, those are our parents. Then the third God is our leaders, who we bestow our powers to give us leadership. That happens in the Bible, where God gives leadership through prophets. Then Israelites decides to get their leader, and God tells them, this one will hit you bad. And it did. So to me, a leader promises what he can. Don't promise what you cannot.
That's it. Good. Ronald, let's get into the gist of the conversation then.
Yes.
I mean, it's now in the public domain that every other time now the president speaks,
he promises.
He promises.
Yes.
I mean, that's in the public domain.
That is true.
But then, Ronald, there's been a lot of murmurs from the crowds that the president has been addressing. In fact, let me take you back to this week, actually last week, when he was in Mombasa as well. He was addressing a crowd upon landing in Mombasa. They only kept on shouting, Mafuta, Mafuta, Mafuta.
Yes.
And everybody saw it. And every other places that go now, there are murmurs in the crowds, even in the president's backyard.
Yes.
That everybody is feeling the heat of this regime, especially when it comes to taxation and all that. But then the president says, I mean, you guys have got to wait. But then, Ronald, let me now go deep into even this promise that we're talking about today. So he lands in Mombasa, says that I've come with 700 million shillings, all right?
Yes.
And I'm telling you, by June 2024, the fish landing sites right here in Mombasa will be complete. That there will not be fish that is moving away from the ports to go get processed somewhere else. It's going to start here and here. Well, no, we might joke about it, but that's a very specific promise, isn't it?
It is. And first, thank you. I want to respond this way.
Yes.
This country is not ruled by decree, right? It is a country ruled by law.
Does it?
Okay. The rule of law takes precedence in every situation.
Does it?
Right? And the president governs by law. And when the president comes to Nairobi today and says, I want this road to be done, or he went to Mombasa and said, this fish landing site will be complete by June and I have brought these 700 million shillings. That is a presidential promise. And a promise is a debt. But have we considered the factors that might happen between then and the completion of that project? I will give you an example.
Yes, Ronald.
And this directly affects Ragala.
Yes.
We were promised by Baba that we were going to Canaan. All right? But what happened?
Ronald,
No,
Ronald,
I mean, and that is what I'm coming to. And that is what I'm coming to.
Baba didn't say.
Fine, and that is what I'm coming to.
It's
Yes,
okay.
and basically that's what I'm coming to. Let me finish.
I'll answer you.
Now, what happened before that journey to Canaan?
Yes.
He said there were crocodiles in the river Canaan. All right, in River Jordan.
Yes.
He said there are crocodiles. But we didn't cross. We didn't go to Canaan. Something happened along the way where Baba did not win an election. He promised that I will take you to Canaan. That is a debt.
It still stands.
Okay? That is a debt. All right? But it has taken time for us to go to that Canaan. No, I'm just giving you an example.
Are you sure you're going to use that example?
Yes, let
him explain. Let him explain his example.
I'm coming back to this one.
Yes.
Even when we have issues in the country,
yes,
okay, The promises that were made by the president before elections were based on the situation as at then. Okay? But after elections and after this government was constituted and this government was formed, things changed. For instance, the prices of petroleum shot up. That is a factor that you need to consider, because that changes. It does not change the promise or the word of the president, but it changes the duration of the completion of each and every project associated with it.
On that specific issue for even the price of petrol or the fuel prices in the country, he promised he was going to bring it down. That's the debt that we're looking at.
But what happened?
That's the debt that we're looking at.
Yes, but what happened? Yes. But what happened? The global prices went up.
Are you also aware that the president has never addressed the cost of fuel in this country? There's no statement that has ever come from the president.
But let me ask you, the issue about fuel subsidy was unsustainable because of the amount that was being pumped into the fuel subsidy, yet at the same time we were not realizing the results, the direct results. It was taking a lot of time for the country to stabilize that economy. Remember, when this administration came in, the debts for this country that we owe to other countries were maturing during that time.
For the sake of the conversation, just before we extend it so much.
I'm giving you the basis.
It's essentially this.
When the debts matured, things changed because we was required as a country to pay the debt.
Fine,
So if you made a promise that we need to subsidize fuel or we need to reduce the cost of fuel in this country, and then an issue comes in where the maturity of those debts happens during that time. You have to give the president more time as they address those emergency issues.
Regalo, I'm going to cross to you just shortly. Let me answer this question then. I mean, we made the promises. I made the list of the promises that the president made into and after he became president. I'm just going to list the ones that have not essentially come to materialize.
Why not the ones that have materialized?
Just hold on. Which one?
Yes.
Because
the fertilizer.
Hold on. Hold on. We are not focusing on the ones that have materialized. Remember, you're the one who say.
Why not?
Because you're the one who said that the promises are debt.
Yes, and why not focus on that?
So let me just focus on the ones that the president essentially promised on. Number one, the cost of living, which he essentially said was going to come down immediately. You would agree, the majority of Kenyans, every other, depending in whichever divide that you are, we all do agree the cost of living has really shot up. The taxation regime in the country, which is said that you cannot tax an economy to fruition. You and the president actually did promise Kenyans that once we come in, all the taxes are not going to be punitive. But we do know right now that this is the most taxed government, punitive as we do know. Number three, the cost of fuel. So if he did promise this, Ronald, just hold on. There's so many of them as well. There's NHIF and the ones that I'm going to get into as well. If indeed you did promise that these ones are going to come down, Ronald, why then didn't the president say, you see now, on the cost of fuel, I'd promised that it's going to go down. It's not gone down, but it's going to come down at this particular point, Ronald. It's a promise, remember. You're the one who said it's the debt. Take a minute before I cross over to
when you say that it will come down, that the price of that fuel will come down at that particular time. You do not have control over the global prices. You cannot preempt that the prices will come down in the whole world. No, it was a promise. Promises are based on the situation that is at that time.
Is it a broken promise?
I want to be very candid with you about the issue about taxation. You've raised the issue about taxation as well. And I can tell you, how do you run a government without the money? How will you run? We are being asked to responsibly pay our taxes because this was brought by people who have not been paying taxes.
But Bruno, you said I'm not going to tax you.
How do you run a government without taxing people?
You gave me that promise. You gave me that promise.
Now, how?
You said you're going to tax me.
Let's have the clip.
You're going to tax me, but not to death, Bruno.
Who is dying?
I can tell you who's dying.
Who's dying? No. The businesses that have not been paying taxes have been asked to pay taxes, including you, Elijah. If you do not file returns today and file your taxes, then you have a problem. Why don't we allow you?
Let me cross over.
And I want to be very candid. How long has this government been in place?
This is the second
barely,
year.
This is barely 1 year.
This is second
I mean,
year. 2
operational.
years.
Operational, 2 years. How is it 2
This
years?
is the second year. How do you count?
Second year,
how do you count in the government?
How do you count? Count the time.
Count
the time. Because
it is
2022 August.
Does it? When I'm going to come back to you, I'm going to come back to you and the rest of them as well.
Elijah,
Regalo.
Kibaki came in when the economy was at negative.
Yes.
Was that negative?
How much was fuel?
Bro, let me finish. I didn't interrupt you.
Yes.
The economy was at negative. It's even worse than having fuel prices, what he's talking about. Meaning we were grounded. They found a running economy. They still complain that they found no coffers. But at least they found an economy that was running. Not negative like what Kibaki found during Moi's time.
Yes.
So what happened? Kibaki still promised free primary education in 3 months. Did he achieve it? Everyone knows the story. How did he achieve it? Everyone knows the story. Kibaki promised roads.
Yes.
Did we see bypasses coming in? Everyone knows the story. Kibaki promised free maternity and 20 shilling for card alone during when Ngilu was the Minister for Health. And ambulances is most health centers and level 4s, district hospitals.
Yes.
Did we see those health centers coming up? Did we see 20 shilling being paid? Women were told not to carry razor blade na pamba na nini wakienda kuzaa. Did that stop? Everyone know the story. So tuache kuambiana story. The truth is, we promised. And you see, Kibaki was not in the Moi's government.
Yes.
Worst of all, RUTO was the deputy of Uhuru Kenyatta. So how comes he tells us he's promising what he doesn't know, and the guys who took the government in 2002 were not in that government?
Yes.
They were actually outside. So they started from a zero perspective, or even not knowing where kifungu inaekwa. This one, the deputy knew the gate.
Yes.
He knew the sitting room. He knew the meeting room, the boardroom of State House. So he promised establishment of State Capture Commission. He knew the state was captured then. Where is the commission he promised? We are looking at very simple things he promised. He promised unga prices to come down. At what level? He said 90 bob. Stop making noise, he's done.
Yes.
At which level? Unga prices is coming down for 3 years. He said in the first 6 months, Unga will be 90 bob. So 6 months has not stopped. He promised leasing of Mombasa. And that it will not be leased. He's gone to Mombasa saying the same thing. But another sentence comes in and he says, but it will be under management for a period of time, then. What is management? What is leasing? I think English to me was hard, and it's not my mother tongue. My mother tongue is Luo. He said he'll settle squatters in Taita, Mombasa, Kilifi, Tana River, and Kwale.
Yes.
They're still waiting to be settled. He said he will reduce fuel prices. Him and Ndinyoro was making noise of fuel prices being at 8% taxation. We are still waiting for the promise. He promised 200,000 affordable housing every year. One last year. Do we have 250,000 houses? This is the second year. We are still waiting for 250,000 for last year and for this year. Increase police salary in 100 days. Police are still waiting for their salary. He promised diapers for women who are giving birth the first 3 months. Women are still waiting for diapers. He promised free NHIF. Free. NHIF tunataxiwa 2.75%. He promised 5 to 10 companies in NSE, Nairobi Stock Exchange, every year, the first year. He promised 5 to 10 companies to enter NSE, meaning we'll be doing very well. But right now, the paper today is saying 42% of foreign investors flee NSE in 9 months. That is totaling to 6,256 foreign investors fleeing. So was it to flee or to join in the first year? So we've 602,056 have fled in the first year. Let me say 9 months is 1 year. So do this times 5 years. So take 6 times 5 alone. You'll be told 30,000 companies will have left Kenya in 5 years. But the promise was 5 to 10 will enter NEC.
Yes.
So when we talk about economy going bad,
yes,
these people have left the company. So economy is still going to be strong? Is the dollar going to, what is NSE? International trade going. How much dollars are we losing? NSE lost $110 billion. It was in the papers. So tell me, promises that can never work. Let me tell, and I said, in the Bible, 1 Samuel, me, I don't quote what I don't know. I'll quote 1 Samuel, but I don't know the verses.
Yes.
Because me, I don't know how to talk about verses that I don't know.
Yes.
It says, ye you people who vote leaders of your own flesh and blood, your own thinking. When you cry, don't come to me. That is God who said that.
Yes.
This is what we did to ourselves. This is what will stay with it. There is no promise. Now, let me give you another blue economy promise in Mombasa. That fish landing will be done there. In a nice word, let me say, the company ya kutengeneza samaki itoke kwa maji yoshwe, itolewe scales kama kuna scales. Most of them is huko chini hazina scales. Those itolewe scale after scale packaging iende Europe, sindio? For sale, sindio? You want to tell me you said the same in Kisumu, Migori, and Homa Bay, and Siaya. What will happen with the company that is in Thika? So you want to tell me the company in Thika should shut down and the people in Mount Kenya, Thika, lose jobs? That's what you want to do. Yes.
Should we wait to June 2024 to talk about this particular promise?
Who is waiting to do what? To wait what?
Because it's time bound.
It's not going to happen, my friend. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. But why I'm saying it's not going to happen, why I'm saying it's not going to happen, an economy runs with another economy. Why do you want to buy a shoe, brother, when you don't even have, you're promising yourself to buy a shoe, when you don't even know where to get money to buy that shoe?
At what point do you factor in Ronald's argument that indeed I can promise you, but in between that promise, something essentially changes?
That's why I'm saying,
yes,
he promised when he was a deputy president.
Yes.
Kibaki promise was he was not anything in the government. And he delivered. I started by saying Kibaki delivered, he was not in the government.
Yes.
So he is the guy who could have asked, you promised and you've not delivered. He can say, I never knew. But this guy, he promised because he was in the government. What is a government? Who was he in the government? He was number 2. Yes. Was he sitting in cabinet?
Yes.
He was. Was he the chairman of all the counties, economists, the function of a deputy president, the main function of the deputy president? I've forgotten the economy part.
Yes, yes.
He's the chairman. All the governors come to meet the deputy president because of economic something. I've forgotten the name. Was he not the chairman? He was. Did he put people in the government that were on his side? Because that government was Nusumkate.
Does it?
Uhuru brought people to be in the cabinet. Was he not privy of what happening in the government? He was, because he had his people in there. So when he was promising, was he promising out of knowledge? If it was Kibaki, he would say yes. He was promising on knowledge.
Does it?
So now, did he fail us? Big time.
I'm going to come back
and
to
is he going to get us out of this stagflation? Stagflation is, we are not getting out of it. We are going to lose more jobs. We are going to lose more people. And this guy said people are not dying. When these people leave, how many works these companies have left? How many jobs people have lost jobs? Do you know the relationship between economy and health? My friend, go back to school, my friend. I never school.
Mr. Mungai, let's just look at a couple of the promises as well, so that we advance this conversation, isn't it? I just want to look at you again so that it's clear again, Mr. Mungai, because you can see how animated Ragalo is.
I'm an honest man.
Let's be an honest man. Here's the thing. Upholding the Constitution and respecting the judiciary. Mr. Mungai, you and I have seen a couple of court orders that have been disrespected. I would remind you of the latest one, where it was about stopping the police from going to Haiti. As we do know, that was disrespected. There's just a long list that I can go into, but just for the sake of time, I will just point a couple. Number two, let me just go to the third one, stop borrowing. I mean, analysis will show you that there's a president who came into power telling us that, well, is going to correct the wrongs of the previous regime. But if you look at data on data, like if you go month-on-month borrowing, it is the best borrowing president that we've ever seen as a country. All right, enroll all Kenyans to NHIF by December 2022, yet to happen. It was quite sure that by December 2022, everyone will be on an NHIF. Well, it's yet to happen. I'll continue again that all-inclusive gender government, well, there have been questions around this one as well. And even on the cost of living, I'll continue. This is quite a long list.
Electricity cost.
That's it. Electricity cost as well.
65%.
Yeah, it's up now by 66% and still rising. Mr. Mungai, I mean, it's a long list. But how are you gonna help Kenyans understand this morning that when it comes to the noise about making every time the president now stands to promise, we do know very well the majority of these promises might not see the light of the day. That's why we're making noise. We're saying, well, can you go back and at least deliver on the ones that you promised before continuing to promise Kenyans on more?
You know, Simba,
Yes.
there are many promises that have been made, even including in the Bible. And you know, sometimes I see the president, and I know he's a man of the word, and I imagine he must be reading from Romans. I've heard Ragalo quoting a Bible verse for the first time today.
Yes. I didn't say a verse. I said a book. 1 Samuel. I don't know verses. I don't lie, bro. Yes.
But I'm about to say the truth. Don't worry. At least you can count on me to say the truth. But if that's Romans 8:25. But if we hope for what we do not see, we wait for it with patience. I think this must be the president's favorite verse.
Thank you.
That if we hope for what we do not see.
Yes.
You see, it's some of those promises we have not seen them.
Yes.
But the Bible tells us to wait with patience. But I must say this. One is that all politicians, the president notwithstanding, when they make promises, we must always take the promises with a pinch of salt. Because the challenge sometimes is the atmosphere within which promises are made and the atmosphere within which promises are delivered are two different things. And I'll give you an example. Most of the times when you make promises out there on things that you will do for Kenyans, sometimes you have not put the budgetary even processes into consideration. Because government...
So why you promise, Mr. Mungai?
Be patient, be patient.
Yes.
Because you see, government is a bureaucracy and there are procedures that must be followed.
Yes.
You have mentioned a couple of items which, in your opinion, you say the president promised and he's yet to deliver. And I love the consideration that he's yet, it's not that he's not delivered, he's yet to deliver. You've talked about judiciary, for instance. You know that for the first time, operationalization of the judiciary fund has happened. You have quoted court orders, and you have said that the president has gone ahead to ignore some court orders, including Haiti. But the cabinet secretary said that the process was referred back to parliament because parliament must authorize before the policemen actually get to leave the country and go to Haiti. You've also mentioned a number of things, one including the price of unga, which Ragalo has mentioned.
Yes.
You know, sometimes I wonder if the president is a miller, so that we're expecting him to mill flour on behalf of
Mr. Mungai, I thought you were going to be the truthful man.
No, I'm telling you the truth. And the truth must be delivered even when it's very difficult.
Yeah, he's not a miller. Thank you.
I've also heard people saying that, including the today's...
So he doesn't give
today's Business Daily saying that the investors are fleeing the country in droves. You know, sometimes we owe obligation. We have an obligation to tell our viewers the truth. We have an obligation to assume that our viewers and our listeners at least have gone to school and at least they know one or two things about the economy. We are all aware that in the US government has raised the interest rates payable to investors. And therefore, if you're an investor in a third world country like Kenya, and you hear the US has raised the interest rates and they are paying well, you're more likely to shift your capital to the US because it's a more stable economy than be here in Kenya. So even as we call these kamukunjis and say that the president has not delivered, let us also look at the macroeconomic factors.
Yes.
Lastly is to say this. It is not that the president has not delivered on the promises as stipulated in the manifesto.
Yes.
He himself admits that it is only that these things take a bit of time, much more than he himself had anticipated.
Yes.
And why? And
Was
why?
he not
Let
the
me
deputy
explain.
president?
No, wait,
Was
let
he
me
not the
explain.
deputy
Don't worry.
president?
Yes, Mr. Mungai, explain.
You know,
Yes.
do not assume that I do not have facts.
Yes.
Let us give an example. On the issue of housing, he had promised, to
250,000
build houses for Kenyans.
a year.
Now, that process also has budgetary implications. Now, when the finance bill was in place and when it was signed into law, there are people that went to court to stop the process, right or wrong. Now, that process of going to court was not anticipated in the promise making, and therefore, that is bound to take more time than was promised. And therefore, what am I saying? You remember, including Baba, who we respect very much, he had promised the mother of all battles in the Supreme Court. And what did the Supreme Court finally say? That they delivered hot air. So the thing, what I'm trying to say is, one, when politicians make promises, let us first take them with a pinch of salt. Let us not be gullible.
Fine.
Let us not be gullible.
Mr. Mungai,
Even
yes.
when Ragalo said here,
yes,
and I actually agree with him, that when
Yes.
you ask God for something,
Yes.
you are likely to get three answers.
When he asked,
Yes, when we
this
ask.
one we
Yes.
didn't
And
ask,
one
he
of those,
promised.
and
Yes.
one of those answers
Yes.
is wait. Let
This
us
one-
be patient.
this one we
Let
didn't-
us be
Mr.
patient.
Mr. Mungai, hold on.
This one we didn't.
This one we're coming to you.
This
No,
one,
yes.
one second,
Just-
one sentence.
Yes.
This one we didn't ask.
That's it. That's
He
what I wanted.
promised.
That's what I wanted. That's what I wanted. Just
now,
Rono,
let
Rono,
me just
just
come
Rono,
to
I'll be
this,
coming
yes.
to you. I'll be coming to you, Mr. Mungai. Here's the thing that you're mentioning. That you're saying that when a politician promises you something, take it with a pinch of salt. Mr. Mungai, are you not sort of worried about that statement that comes from you? Because when your president stands and tells you, I'm going to go on with those promises, just for the sake of clarity this morning. This is what he said, I'm going to buy 2 million acres for squatters in this country. We still do have those squatters in the country. And there are essentially so many parts of the country, more squatters, by the way, that are going to keep on increasing because we do know evictions are ongoing in the country. Free internet bundles and calls, okay? Then goes on to say, I'm essentially going to promise cheap loans for farmers and better prices for farm inputs. Goes on to continue that I'm essentially going to publish contracts, all the contracts that we're getting into with China. They're going to be in the public domain. All of you guys are going to have a look at them. Goes on to say there's going to be a health cover for all low cost of living within 100 days. I'll keep on.
Which one has not been kept
just hold
there?
on.
All of
Just
them.
hold on. Just hold on. Just
Which
hold
one
on.
has not been kept?
All of them.
Let me just end like this, and then goes to say that all primary schools in the country are essentially going to have free internet and electricity as well. Even when you listen to these promises, and then you say, Mr. Mungai, that when a politician promises you something, you take it with a pinch of salt. Then is that not the wrong politician that you voted
Exactly,
in?
that's what I meant.
If indeed you're going to take everything that he tells you with a pinch of salt.
No.
Well, 2 minutes and then I cross over to
No,
you.
that's not the right interpretation.
Yes.
Look at it this way.
Yes.
Let us talk about settling squatters.
Yes.
When you want to settle squatters and you want to buy land, there is a body mandated by law to do land acquisition and land distribution,
That's it.
and that is the National Land Commission.
But what was the last time you saw a headline that this body is doing something on it?
Wait.
Yes.
The National Land Commission is an independent commission constitutionally that has its own independent promises.
That's it.
Now, the contention here, and I want us to be very clear, the contention here is not that the promises have not been fulfilled. It is only that the promises are yet to be fulfilled.
But some of them have
and
been
why that
broken.
distinction is important
Yes.
is because
Yes.
it tells you there is a time frame
Yes.
between what is promised and delivery of the promise.
But there's
and what the president is saying is that even he himself,
there was a time frame in
the
the
president
promise.
he himself
He's
is
shocked.
saying
Yes.
that even sometimes even he himself
Yes.
is shocked at the length of time it takes between making a promise and
Yes.
delivering the promise.
Yes.
And you know why I agree with him? Because at the end of the day, and this is why we must be proud of this as a country,
Yes.
is that even when the president makes a declaration, it is not a decree by law that it must be followed. And we must be proud of that as a country.
It is
to know that even when the president makes a promise, there is due legal process to be followed in order to make the promise a success.
But when a president speaks, is that not the president's office speaking, Mr. Mugai?
I agree, but I am saying, I agree, but I am saying, remember, you know, we guys, we must not forget history. We've come from far. What Ragalo is telling us, the 24 years of President Moi. We must be cognizant of the fact that we live in a dispensation where the president does not govern by decree. There are legal processes that must be followed, even for us to be able to fulfill a promise.
Just hold on, Mono, then. Please, Mr. Mugai, I'll be coming back to you. Let me give you that question that Mr. Mugai is essentially ended with. Otherwise, we would have gone on, Mr. Mugai, until we clear the show this morning. Number one, so could you tell us, please, Ronald, just like Mr. Mugai is saying, that indeed the president can promise, but then in reality, it's not a decree. There's a legal process that essentially goes into making this promise come to fruition. Let me just look at some of the promises that is essentially gone through. So which legal process is needed for us to see the process for free internet and for free internet in public schools? Just hold on. Continue telling us which legal process is needed for us to realize cheap loans for farmers and better prices for farm inputs, and also which law is needed then to also increase police remuneration, which law is also needed for us to have half of the administration in his government.
Which law do you need to give kids Pampers?
Women.
Which law do you need to give kids Pampers? Which law?
All these promises, as you've said, have financial implications. True or false?
That's true.
Does it mean the president can go to treasury and just get the money and go buy diapers?
No.
Just asking you. Just asking Ragalo.
I'll answer.
When you say that it does not require the issue about internet in schools and electricity in schools.
Does it?
Which law?
Does it require any does it have any financial implications?
You've been asked which law.
All right?
Does it?
It has financial implications.
Yes.
And for a government to finance a project, what happens? Is it by presidential decree that remove 100 billion, put it here?
Is it not by appointing a CS who's going to support that promise?
Yes, but if the CS is to do that, then it has a process. You can't just go to the treasury and order the CS for treasury to allocate money and use that money within that period of time, yet counties require money to run the county governments. You have to do a budget. It has to be put in the budget or in the supplementary budget. And let me now come to this. Because let me just finish this one because we are going to miss the point. Ragalo talked about God. President, His Excellency Dr. William Samoei Ruto is not God. He is human. Okay? God lives in perfection. But our president is human, like anybody else. It's only that we have entrusted him to run this country. It's number one. Number two, he has talked about Kibaki and said Kibaki was nothing.
No, that first point.
I mean,
are you confirming what
he said that Kibaki was nothing. But Kibaki had served in the Moi's government before. I just want to make it clear. He said he was nothing.
He was.
There's a difference being a deputy president and working in the previous regime, the Moi regime.
By the way, we're going to give you the time to exploit your points. Just go to your first point that you've just said, that the president doesn't live in perfection. The president is not God.
Yes.
But what was he saying in church?
Now,
isn't that even when God promises you, some of the promises you gotta wait. He was essentially comparing his promises to God's promises.
Very true.
Yes,
very true. Now, we ask God to give us what we need.
Does it?
Right?
Does it?
We ask. But Ragala has clearly said we didn't ask.
At what
no,
point?
those are two different sentiments. Those are two different things.
At what point in the Bible? Yes.
He has said, for God, we ask God.
Yes,
right? Mm-hmm. And I don't want to use the name God in blasphemously or in vain. But the president promised.
Does it?
And for every promise, it takes a process. Either legal or time-bound or financial. Every promise that has financial implication must abide or must be done according to the rule of law.
Fine. Mm-hmm.
And let me go to this one because I think sometimes we miss the point. When we talk about internet in schools, are you aware that more than 90% of the schools in Kenya are connected to electricity.
No, bro.
As a report from Mbugo, the former MD.
This is another liar in UDA government.
No,
90% of school, 90.
More than 90%.
More than.
Number two,
UDA talking. UDA talking. 90%. Do you know what 90% means?
Yes. He talked about free internet.
UDA talking.
All right. He talked about free internet.
UDA can
we
say
have
anything.
heard that the cabinet secretary for what do you call it? The digital economy.
Yes.
With his PS, Engineer John Tanui, they have been going around this country launching internet hotspots all across. It is only that it is a continuous process that will take time for its effect to be felt in the nation.
Yes.
You have seen, and I want to be very, very candid with you, the last mile internet connectivity. You have seen contractors on site connecting internet, doing fiber cables. And somebody wants to say that is a promise not delivered. I want to talk about farm inputs because we are not honest. The whole country is benefiting from fertilizer that has been brought in through government intervention in this country.
That's a farm input.
That's a farm input.
Input.
Yes. Fertilizer is a farm input.
Which constitutes what percentage, Bruno?
Fine, but fertilizer cuts across all the agricultural practices.
But it's not input.
True or false?
But you see, when
are you aware agricultural inputs have no VAT?
Fine. Just coming to that.
Just hold on.
Are you aware that there's no VAT charge on farm inputs? Are you aware?
Tell them, Brian.
Because these people seems to be working in a vacuum where they don't have information. I want to talk about the issue about squatters.
Yes.
He went to Dongo Kundu. He said there are issues with Dongo Kundu where the list that he has been given has people who are coming from Nakuru. And it has to be sorted out. Had he said that we are going to do it in 100 days, and then you found that the list has people from a different area who do not belong to Dongo Kundu, it has to be sorted. It requires time to be resolved.
Yes.
And this has financial implications that has to be put in the budget and passed
Thank you.
through the budget.
Thank you.
I'm here to finish.
Finish, bro.
When you talk about NHIF,
bring them. 2.7.
The president said that we are going to provide NHIF.
Okay.
Later on, there were no system or a law that anchors this process so that it can be wholesome. We can have everybody on board. And that is why 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, he signed 4 bills into law that now operationalizes this promise of NHIF and cover.
Yes.
Right?
I'll raise my hand like
when they say that he promised to employ teachers. How many teachers thousands of teachers have been employed within the last 3 months or 4 months by the Teachers Service Commission? Thousands of teachers have been employed just to make sure that our children in schools can get access to education. That also has financial implication. And it was done, and that is a promise delivered.
But one of the yes, just
how bad? How bad?
You are saying so much.
No, Ragalo.
Imagine these are two. I am one. Ragalo, how much time do you give?
By the way, trust me, you're gonna get.
Now, when you come to port operation,
one me, because you're going
when you come to the issue about port operations, because he has talked about the fish landing site and said what happens to the processing plant that is in Thika. All right. If one is going to be built in Kisumu and the other one is going to be built in Mombasa, in the coastal region. Now, let me ask him another question of the same caliber, of the same view, of the same line of thought. The port operation that was returned to the coast. Yes. What happened to the dry port that was here in
I will answer.
I mean,
kindly, Simba.
Why do you want to tie? No, Simba. Why do you want to tie?
I am the one talking. When the baton is gone,
it is not yet gone. You have not released me.
Yes.
You have not released me.
Just for the sake of time.
Yes.
I'm requesting. These are two guys supporting government. I'm the only person. I'm just giving a sentence. Let me finish it is a sentence. These are
Yes.
two. It's my sentence, and I'm putting it on air. These are two guys supporting the government.
you're scared.
I'm only person who is on the other side. So when you
you're not
point
telling the
this
truth.
guy, give me. When you point this guy, give me. Don't go 1, 2, 3.
No,
when you
I
come
mean,
back to me.
I'm on you now. I'm on you now, by the way. Ragala, I'm on you. I'm on you now.
Yes.
Here's the thing. I just wanted to bring up to Bono up to speed on the issue for how many primary schools, how many schools in the country have not essentially been connected to electricity. Here's the thing. So far, according to the Ministry of Education statistics, we have over 22,000 schools with power, which is all done. All right? And if you look at how many public schools that we have in the country, we have also over 31,464. That is according to the stats
percentage?
that were carried out in
When?
2022. That was essentially last year.
2022.
That can't
Yes.
be 90%.
2022.
That's it. We just leave
These
it.
are programs
we just
that
leave
are
it.
ongoing, even as we speak.
Ragalo,
There are programs ongoing.
Ragalo, the question this morning, please take 3 minutes. I'm going to come back from the break and still start with you. The question that we're talking about this morning is not essentially the promises that have been delivered. No, guys, we do agree that some of them have been delivered. A majority of Kenyans will say, well, he's delivered on some. The question is on some, is on majority
That are
of
yet
the
not
promises
majority.
that have not been delivered, that were time bound. If the 100 days, 100 is expired and they've not been delivered.
Exactly.
Is that not where the
Like
question
salary
is?
for police.
Is that
Like
not where-
Let's be very candid.
So,
the salary
it is
for
not
police.
you who was
Yes,
talking, it's
Ragalo.
me.
Yes, Ragalo.
It's not
Yes.
you, Bwana.
Yes.
So, do we need, this guy has said very nice things,
Yes.
that we need budget and money to do some of these
That's
things.
it.
So, did we need budget to add an office of the chief cabinet secretary?
That was
Did
an
we
executive
need
order.
money? So that money was there.
Executive order.
So it is called executive decree, and you said we don't rule by decree. That is
It's
by
not an
decree.
executive decree, it's an executive order.
So what is order and what is a decree?
We will educate you with the difference.
So now, it is a decree
It's an
because it
order.
has to happen. So there was money to appoint and make another office out of the blues. Unconstitutional, which is not part of the constitutional offices that we know that run the government. And then when someone comes and says, that is a ghost worker, people say it is wrong. So why was that person being paid? For what? Yes, ask. Kenya should know. What job portfolio did he have? It is not in the constitution. So, did we have budgetary allocation for more money to buy cars for deputy and the president? So we had money for that. So we had money to expand the budget for State House from the Uhuru 4 billion to 8 billion, whatever it was, and more money. So we have budget, we had money for that, but you don't have budgetary allocation for Pampers, for kids of poor people, the mamambogas and watu wa pikipiki who are giving birth, but their kids need Pampers. They could not afford Pampers, which was promised that if your baby gives birth, if you give birth, then your baby is supposed to get free Pampers for 3 months. But there was money for that. There was money for addition of over 50 CSS, deputy CSS. Thank God it was stopped. But there was money for adding this number. So there was money to pay them. But there was no money for NHIF in hospitals. So 100 days that by December 2022, we were supposed to have joined NHIF. All of us. That one doesn't need money. That one just needs president to say, I want by this time everyone must do this. Do you need money to have an ID? You need to know by 18 you should be having an ID. When you turn 18, by then you should get an ID. Do you need money to have a birth certificate? The lady who gives birth to you, understand, but immediately she gets a notification. After 1-2 months, she needs to get a birth certificate. Do you need money for that? So did we need a budget to go and join NHIF, all of us? He says we needed a law for it. So did we need a law and money to do double work of the governor of bringing in new community health workers which we know it has always been there, community health workers, the function of the governor. Now the president is there saying, sasa tuko na majama, watakuwa nenda pale, wanafanya BP, wanafanya hii. And that is a devolved function. So did we have to use money to do that? That is a function of a governor for Kiambu, governor for Siaya, governor for Samburu. He should have said, governors, hey, you have done this. Hey, I want us to roll out these people at the same time the whole nation. Did we have to do it? Does the president have to do the work of a governor? I mean, I'm asking, so that is how, did we?
Yes.
He said that he's not God. I said, people who stand for God's job in this world, one is your parent. Okay? Jesus could not be born of a man if he knew the man cannot do God's work.
Does it?
You understand?
Does it?
And your body, you're told, is a castle of God. It is where God resides, in your body. God resides in you. And that's why God says, keep your body clean. Not body like woge, like keep yourself clean because I live in you and you live in me. It is not me who's saying, me, I don't know the Bible verses, but I can quote some of these things very clearly. So when someone is telling Kenyans, I will do this for you, and it doesn't do, me, I take you not doing the work of God, and you are not telling God the truth.
That's it. I want you to hold your thoughts there because I'm going to come back with you.
The Bible says one word.
We're going to go on a break.
A father cannot promise bread and give kid stones. And this is the father giving us stones.
We're going to come back. We're going to come back and look. We're going to come back and look at other issues this morning. By the way, clear on this issue for promises. The question we're going to answer once we come back is, since they are now disgruntled, every other time the president speaks about promises, how does he fix it? Maybe Mungai and Rono are going to tell us exactly what it is once we come back right here on The Morning Drift. My name is Simba Elijah Kiage. Join us online at Lookuptv across all your social media platforms. Once we come back, top and under the wars that are bedeviling Kawira Mwangaza and Kiambu Governor. Once we come back.
Nestled in the quiet and serene neighborhood of Makutano, just 2.8 kilometers from the Tarmac Road lies Alpha Meadows. This is a controlled gated community where you can build your city, home, or purchase for investment purposes. If you are looking for a place to call home, full of peace and quiet with magnificent views, then Alpha Meadows is that place. To book a plot, call 0723 979797 or visit us on 4th Avenue Towers along 4th Ngong Avenue off Bishop Road. Alpha Meadows is a product of Fusion Estates. Fusion Estates, your land ownership partner. Are you an SME looking for a media partner? Look no more, as Lookuptv got you covered for all your visibility and marketing needs. We at Lookuptv understand your business needs and want to work with you on your marketing journey, giving you solutions that will take you to the next level. Call us today on 0707 572 358 or send an email to sales@lookuptv.co.ke and kickstart this amazing journey. Welcome to Lookuptv, your official SME media partner.
Introducing the Kenya Trade Fair Fusion Sales Drive event in the heart of Nairobi at the Kenya National Archives. It's not just an event, it's sales generation with a remarkable return on investment. Get ready to let your booth do the talking as you study new market trends with lots of entertainment featuring traditional live bands, DJs, and artists. For vendor registration, call 0724 715 334 or 0713 907 584 or 0723 861 173.
Are you a junior secondary school, a college, a TVET institution, or a university, and you want to advertise your intake? Book now and advertise with us today on both Lookuptv and all our digital platforms. Call us today. Or email us on sales@lookuptv.co.ke.
Welcome back. My name is Simba Kiage. Let's clear that conversation for promises across the country now. And I want to give Ragalo his last 4 minutes so he can clear his submission then. Now, Ragalo, I mean, we keep on saying we're not talking about the promises that are maybe been half delivered or not yet delivered. But the thing about the president is that in his entire promises, there is a time limit where they're all time bound. And that's why majority of the critics who are looking at the president are saying, well, can you stop promising maybe until some of these are delivered before you continue promising Kenyans? Because now also Kenyans are getting more critical every time that you stop and promise them. Ragalo, how does he fix it? Because if
you know, when Mo used to go to America and many other countries, because Mo also used to travel.
Yes.
At no point in time did Mo come and say, I've been in America, you're going to have 10,000 jobs of youth to America. Of course, he never. If he did, show me. When Kibaki would travel abroad, though he never traveled so many times, but few times that he did travel, at no point did he come and say, I was in Britain and we are going to have 200,000 jobs in Britain for youths to go. You know, when you promise, you give people a lot of hope.
Yes.
And you remember even when the Canada story came and the youths were told to apply, there was something on internet, you apply, even pay some money around 800, I don't know, it was something. Many youths applied for jobs abroad. Jobs were actually advertised to Canada until there was a what we call ambassadorial or international relations goof, where the Canadian ambassador said no. So such things also give us a black eye as a country. We are looked up as people really who don't know what they are doing. So even if you do something, and this is what I look at every situation in life, I bring it back to the family. When your dad knows he's going to do something for you people, sometimes he doesn't talk about it. He does it pole pole. Because when you overpromise and you don't do, people stop taking you seriously. And people start, then you'll reach a point where there's a familiarity. Then, tumezoea. Then contempt. This hour. Familiarity brings contempt. Like now, the way you're seeing, we were in Kikuyu the other day, Kabete, I think. No, Kikuyu. When we were starting KCPE. And guys in Kikuyu really were not happy of whatever they were being told. And we saw that. Leave alone now the president. Even now the people in UDA. We saw in Ruiru, when Kaninikega was in Ruiru, he tried to work up the crowd.
Yes.
Crowd refused. We saw last week on Saturday, not this week, not this Saturday that just left, the other week, there was a road show in Githurai. And this road show, the lady that was speaking on the road shows asked in Kikuyu, Nemoreda die demoga iderie President Ruto. The crowd in Githurai said no. Do you want me to go and say hi to Gachagua? No. What about Sakaja? No. What about Uhuru Kenyatta? What happened? Yay! contempt. People are like, tunaenjoyiwa. And that was not a political rally. It was just somebody saying hi.
Yes.
And you could see what people were saying. You saw what happened in Keno. You know, these things are happening. And this is not only in Mombasa. You saw what happened in Mombasa now. People are walking around, and we are speaking. People are just walking around, people saying mafuta, mafuta, and they are walking. People are getting contempt. People are giving you contempt because it's now familiarity. Please stop promising. Unite us and let's the work be done. People even today say, Kibaki never used to talk. Hata ungejua, lakini things were being done. In the next 5 years, if you will still be president, people will say, hey, na si tuliambiwa, lakini hakuna kitu tuliona. Let it not reach that point.
Yes.
What I'm saying is, please, don't promise. Because now, the easy thing, women gave birth knowing you will give them pampers. Right now, you are telling women not to give birth because NHIF will be expensive. You are telling people not to go to give birth, to give birth because life expectancy is life taxation and the way of life is very expensive. So you're giving birth to that kid to eat what? Mawe. So people are not going to give birth. Yet you had promised to give them pampers. Factors that are affecting all these things is that Kenya will stagnate. Even rates of infection are going to go high. Because when people cannot be healthy, cannot afford, people will get sick. Mental health, sicknesses are in the rampant. That's why you hear someone has shot the other. People are hanging themselves. Mental health problems are going to be high. Why? Because we are being promised what is not there. So in life, let's stop promising. You promise our country is going to have 5 to 10 companies joining NSE. But I can read here that in December 2022, we had 14,877 foreign investors in Kenya. In March 2023, we had 14,807. So already 70 had gone. Okay? In 4 months. In June 2023, we had 8,623 foreign investors. That tells you almost a half had gone. In September, we are actually there now, 8,621. We've lost 2 investors, 2, between June and September. When these investors have gone, what has happened? And here we want to save ourselves from the Kenya shilling from dying. The Kenya shilling will still suffer. So what I'm saying, please, let's bring Kenyans together. Let's not promise. Because you said, I'm removing kazi kwa vijana. I'm going to employ 11,000 youths in Nairobi.
Yes.
To plant 15 million trees. If I'm forgetting. Did we employ 11,000 youths? Are the trees being planted? So what happened to kazi kwa vijana youths work, and then you promise them another work to plant trees? I don't know what they are planting today. Let's not promise. Bring people together. Let's harness social structure of our country. Let us grind this thing together. Because if you promise, you're going to fail.
That's it.
And you cannot, and then the paper said 3 months ago, or rather 1 month ago, that you promised 180 something promises, or around 38 or 8. I can't get the number, but more than 100 promises. Can you achieve them? It's unachievable. I wish you promised I'll make sure I take care of education. Then run education very nicely. Then later say, after education, I'm going to handle health. Go with the 2 things. Right now, people don't remember Kibaki with so many things. They remember Kibaki with 2 things. Strengthening economy and infrastructure. Simple. Alituwekea barabara na akaacha tukiekewa mastima. Hiyo ndio vitu watu wanakumbuka juu ya Kibaki. Wewe utakumbukwa na nini?
That's the question, Mr. Mgai.
Utakumbukwa na nini?
We're not essentially talking about the promises that have in some way been delivered or are yet to be delivered, we are questioning the time-bound promises that we're yet to see nothing of. And Mr. Mugai, if you're cognizant of the fact that, that despite you telling Kenyans, you gotta wait, majority of Kenyans are listening to the president and they're counting the 100 days to something. They're counting the 6 months to something, the way it comes from the president. Is it something that he has to fix now? Because majority of the audiences now that the president is speaking to are quite disgruntled every time he stands to promise them something new, knowing very well that the other promises have not yet been delivered.
First, I must say that despite the doom and gloom,
yes,
this morning I am a happy man because for a long time on this show you've asked us who is the kingpin of Mount Kenya.
Yes.
And I have kept on telling you that the deputy president is the kingpin of Mount Kenya.
Yes.
But yesterday in a church service, he said he does not want that.
Yes.
No, I'm coming to your question.
Okay.
It's related.
Yes.
He said he's not interested in the position.
No, sir.
And therefore, the next logical person to take up the position is myself.
Listen,
so even as I
that's why you clap.
Even as I answer this question, I am answering as the Mount Kenya kingpin.
Thank you,
ladies and gentlemen. The Mount Kenya kingpin, right here,
right now.
Know this face.
Yes.
Know this face because
the deputy president said he's busy. He's busy.
He's so busy, isn't it? Doesn't want it.
He has left the position to me. Now I can answer the question.
The Mount Kenya kingpin speaking right
now.
And this is to say that as the kingpin, you've asked the question on promises,
okay,
and whether people are getting disillusioned. Let us state things as they are. One, are things tough for Kenyans? The answer is yes. Things are tough.
Mm-hmm.
And secondly, my colleague has said that you cannot promise children bread or fish and bring them an alternative of snake vis-a-vis stones. And I agree with him. But also what we must understand is that even when you're promised the land of milk and honey, there is a process of feeding the cow to get the milk. There is a process and a procedure within which you extract honey. So therefore, even when the promises are made, we must be cognizant that there is a process towards which you get those good things. And I'll tell you for a fact that this country is coming from a scenario where the duo, the former handshake brothers, ground this country to an economic halt, and therefore the brothers that we have now, they might not be as good a brother as the previous ones, but the ones that we have now, they have to work really hard. And remember, even when they were getting to power, we were within one of the worst droughts that happened in this country. And to bring this into context is to say,
yes,
the truth and reality is that we are in a hole that we must get out of. And sometimes, Simba, children, you see, you cannot keep on telling your children that things are going to get tough and you're going to die, like David D. was doing the other day. That's not how you run a country. You must infuse to the economy some level of hope, some level of optimism, so that even as people go about their businesses, as we go about coming out of the economic hole that we are in,
yes,
there is hope that things will get better. Now, does this hope have a timeline? Because then that is equally important. You see, we cannot just live on hope and hope alone. It must have a timeline. And that timeline is what we are calling the milk and honey, and saying that there is a time frame within which things should occur. Now, we have, as UDA government, 5 years to deliver the goodies. Don't worry about what we are promising, being promised 6 months, 1 year. The truth and reality is that there is a manifesto that must be implemented within 5 years. In fact, one of the things I love about this government is that the media has taken upon themselves to become the people's watchdog. And I think that's very important, because then this government is under extensive scrutiny to make sure that they deliver on their promises. Who wins? It is ordinary Kenyans who win when the media is vigilant. The media actually has not been vigilant in the handshake government. The media was not vigilant. For the first time, we are seeing a proactive media that is playing its role in terms of holding the government to account,
yes,
in terms of reporting real issues on the ground.
Yes.
And this is very important because then it ensures that government is on its toes, which is a good thing, and that government can deliver on its promises.
Yes. Mr. Mungai, there's something that you're really avoiding, and hopefully Ronald is just going to talk about it just as we sign off this conversation, that nobody, and I'm going to use that particular term because now we're looking at the presidency, nobody demanded these promises from the presidency. Just like Ragalo said, that nobody asked.
Nobody.
That's a lie.
Just hold on.
That's
just hold on, Mr. Mungai.
I'll explain.
Just hold on, Mr. Mungai.
Yes, I'll explain why it's a lie.
Nobody asked for these promises. Number two.
Yeah, I'll explain.
Number two, nobody asked the presidency to give a time period on these promises because majority of Kenyans voted upon these promises the presidency gave. How is it that now, when we ask, it's been 100 days, it's been 1 year, it's been 1.5 years since you got in office, we're not seeing this, they turn around and tell us, well, you gotta wait, things changed.
First is to underscore the fact that it is a lie when people say that no one asked the president for these promises. And why is this a lie?
Yes.
What is democracy? Democracy is a government for the people, by the people themselves. That means there is an existing contract between the people of Kenya and the UDA government.
Yes.
How does the contract come into place?
Yes.
Because the UDA government sold a manifesto of what they were going to do for Kenyans, and that is why the people of Kenya undertook their constitutional right to vote in the UDA and the Kenya Kwanza government based on the promises they made in the manifesto.
That's it.
And therefore, as ordinary Kenyans, we have the right to demand because we voted premised on the promises that were made.
Pretty much.
And therefore, I want to debunk the myth and the pseudo narrative by Ragaro and Co. That the president, we do not demand these things of the president. We demand these things of the government. Why? Because there is an existing social contract between us and the Kenya Kwanza government. Therefore, that in itself is a lie that there is no existing demand from us as Kenyans to ask government to perform. Therefore, that in the first instance cannot be used as a basis of argument because it is a lie.
That's it. But then are you not coming then to the point, just as I cross over to Rono, then we clear this before we talk about other issues this morning, then are you not coming to the point that, well, but the promises have been made and they've been time bound. And Kenyans, just hold on. Kenyans voted on
women are giving birth daily.
So is it okay then for us to say, well, because you've not delivered on them, then you're failing us?
No. You see, gentlemen.
Mr. Mungai, why are you turning around?
Listen. We did not elect a magician. When we went to the
I am tired.
When we went to the polls, we knew that you are electing a president, not a magician.
Fine.
And therefore, we must allow due process to be followed. This is not voodoo politics. It's not voodoo economics. It's not abracadabra. We are not living in a banana republic. We are living in a country that has the rule of law, and therefore we must allow timelines and legal timelines to play out.
Well, Ronald, just clear this conversation then. Is it something that has to be fixed? Yes.
I love what Eric Mungai has said.
Yes.
I want to say Mungai because it might mean...
you might confuse me with Ragalo.
No, I cannot confuse. How do you confuse? It's like light and darkness, my friend.
Also, we're doing in black.
You are the embodiment of darkness.
Maybe you might say that the Mount Kenya kingpin is in the house.
Now, the issue about the kingpin is a story I really don't want to get to because it is a tribal card that this government is really trying to fight. And the deputy president clearly said that I don't want to be the leader of Mount Kenya because I'm the deputy president, I'm the leader of of Kenya. So, and that is very important for all of us. Number two, let me first respond to what Ragalo has alluded about the investors leaving this country. If you go back to 3 years ago, you realize that we've had a prolonged drought, as Eric Mungai has said. Remember, we had COVID. Remember, we had the locust invasion. You know, some people are so fast, easily forgetting. That costed the government a lot of money to mitigate. We also had, we now have El Nino, which is also an issue. And we had a very important event that really messed up this country, and that is what we call Maandamano, the violent protest. It was not protest, violent protests. I mean, those are the contributing part of the factors, political factors and natural factors that are contributing to some of the investors reconsidering their investment into this country. And part of it, again, is the refusal by the opposition consistently to accept the results of a clear and fair and just electoral system. In fact, they refused the process of the court up to now. And those are the issues that affect investors. And I would really wish that they put that into consideration as they argue out the issue about investors. Finally, Ragala said that the president is not bound to give the promises. He has forgotten that for them, they launched a manifesto that was a nut, a shell without the contents inside, because they never did anything. Their manifesto was just something that was, it's like these people who go to a funeral and they write condolence messages on behalf of their bosses, and they go and read it and say now, Eric Ragalo has sent condolence message, yet it was written just in the tent. I mean, so that is an example of Azimio manifesto. But you see, the president is making promises on the basis of economic forums that were done across the country. The economic forums that was done in Mombasa, they talked about the squatters and Redongo Kundu. When they went to the economic program event that happened in the North Rift, they talked about the maize and farm inputs and the taxation of farm inputs, and said we don't want this taxation on farm inputs. I mean, these are promises made as per the UDA economic forums. It was not actually UDA, the Kenya Kwanza economic forums. And I want to clearly say that Kenya Kwanza is an association of people, like-minded people, people who are willing to deliver. And UDA manifesto is a strategic plan. You don't expect to see the results of a strategic plan within the first 1 year if the strategic plan is required to take 5 years. For you to do monitoring and evaluation, right now they are doing what we call implementation. Okay? Some of the programs are being piloted, some of the programs are being implemented. Now, after 2 years, they do what we call control. They do control measures. If the cost of fuel is still high, they do a control measure. If the cost of living is still high, they put a control measure. This is a strategic plan. You have to bring in, they looked at it, they anticipated, they set objectives, which are now in that manifesto. Now they are piloting some while implementing others. It has to follow the process. They'll have to do control now after realizing the midway results of this strategic plan. Then after that, at the end is now when you can do what we call summative evaluation. Because for him, he wants to do summative evaluation in the first year of a 5-year strategic plan, which is really crazy. So this government is there to deliver.
Pretty much. Gentlemen.
Giving birth, they will start giving birth later.
And gentlemen, yes, gentlemen, I would like us to move into the next issue this morning. Bagala, you're next on the table because let's leave it at where it is. Good. Now, the Deputy President was speaking this weekend. It touched on a couple of issues, by the way, that we're going to summarize together. 2 governors now are on the spot. We do have the Kiambu governor and we do have the Meru governor, Kawira Mwangaza as well, and Wamatangi, who are essentially on the spotlight from their MCAs. One governor, who is Kawira Mwangaza, will know her fate in the next 2 days. That is from tomorrow and Wednesday. By the way, we shall be live throughout those entire proceedings right here at Lookuptv, so look forward to that as well. But then, the Deputy President spoke on a couple of those issues. Part of it being, he's not interested in being the Mount Kenya kingpin. Once we come back, let's look at that story and then get to talk about it.
Governor, I guess
The Deputy President has called for a meeting for all Kiambu leaders with a view to address the disharmony that is affecting development agenda in the county, despite being the first bloc that supported the ruling administration.
We are all serving the people of Kiambu. Zote tulichaguliwa na tikiti ya chama moja. Sasa hii mapigano, siku tulitafuta kura tulikuwa tunapendana. Tulikuwa tunatembea gari moja. I want them to come. Na president ameniambia, we cannot let Kiambu go to the dogs. We cannot. And I have set aside the whole day tomorrow. Kutoka saa moja mpaka usiku.
On his end, the leader of majority Kimani Ichung'wah has ridiculed the Kiambu egoistic leaders who has adamantly restrained from solving underlying issues instead of focusing on projects that are beneficial to residents.
We have only had the singular agenda of how we realize the dreams and the aspirations and the promises that we made to the people of Kiambu. As our governor rightly says, let us put our selfish political interests aside. Let us also put our egos, drop them down. Let us come and reason together for the benefit of our people.
Nonetheless, Kiambu Governor Kimani Wamatangi is urging the leaders from Mount Kenya region to keep off political wrangles driven by selfish interests and instead push for the region's development agenda. He said the region could plunge into a situation of public shame due to leaders infighting.
We will never be forgiven by generations if we use this opportunity to promote interboundary and personal conflicts, that instead of joining together to change this country and to change this region, that we waste and squander the opportunity and fail to deliver on the vision and the wishes of our people.
Rigathi continued to call for a unified Mount Kenya region in order to garner massively in the Kenya Kwanza administration, insisting they must agree to work together. Gachagua has discouraged the Mount Kenya kingpin narrative, which is in circulation, saying that it is pointless, as he urged leaders to be on the lookout, not to be diverted from the mandate and the reason they were elected for.
I have no time or desire to aspire for any other office, because ile kazi mimi nimepewa na rais, Bishop, my day starts at 5 and ends at midnight. It's already too much. If I just tell you my duty so that you know, I have no time for that kingship nonsense. You know, sina hiyo time, because mimi niko busy. You know, I'm too busy that I can hardly cope.
Ruga Evil, Lookuptv.
That's it. That is the DP saying it doesn't have time for kingpin issues in the Mount Kenya region. And ladies and gentlemen, this morning we introduced you to the latest Mount Kenya kingpin. Eric Mungai. That's it, done and dusted. That conversation completely closed. So every time you want to talk about Mount Kenya issues, please talk to Eric Mungai. That's done and dusted. Anyway, but gentlemen, there are two governors essentially have been now put on the spotlight, regardless. One is Kimani Wamatangi. You see the deputy president is actually even gone in now just to look at exactly where those issues are. Number two as well, we do have Kawira Mwangaza. And the two perspectives we're going to speak about these two areas, that if you look at this Kiambu County, it is a county that probably Eric will tell us exactly what's going on, as now the kingpin from that particular county. Tell us exactly why is it that that county has been having issues with their governors? Like they've never had a substantive governor for quite some time. It looks like Wamatangi is headed that direction, and Kawira Mwangaza now, it is not going to be a select committee. It is going to be the entire Senate that is going to discuss the issues come tomorrow and Wednesday. Let's talk about that.
Thank you. First of all, let me weigh in on the kingpin issue and hail to the new kingpin of Kiambu County. And I wish him all the best in a serious way. You know, what normally happens in the world of attraction, if you read the book, The Secret, you have to come out to start attracting the powers. You either are attracting a negative or a positive power. So when you put yourself into the position of attraction, seriously, the positive power will come. Negative will come to fight you, but the positive will outweigh because you attracted it first. So if that is what my brother wishes. So let it be.
That's it. They say
I really, that's why when you bear kids, you attract powers. You say, may my kid be. And then when they grow up, they keep attracting. So if you attract positive, so may positive follow you.
Hail the new kingpin for Mount Kenya region.
So and that's why people are voted. People are not voted when they are seated. You have to vie to attract. If you don't vie, how do you become? So you have to throw yourself into a ring for a fight. Going to the kingpin issue. Initially, the king was Gachagua. Everybody was saying he's the head, and everybody was looking at him as the guy who can take over the mantle. A month ago, Gachagua said he's looking for Uhuru Kenyatta to talk to Uhuru Kenyatta on the well-being of Mount Kenya. So he was looking for who? Who is supposed to look for the other if he's the leader? It was Uhuru who was supposed to look for him, not him looking for the king, Uhuru. And I remember during the elections, towards the election of 2013, towards the end of 2022, sorry, around September, Uhuru was taken to Murang'a, Mukuru wa Nyagathanga, in Mukurweini constituency, where it is known that where the first family that bore the Kikuyu nation came from, where the Mombi and Kikuyu lived. And from there, Mishuki bestowed him and other elders in front of the people that this man will give us direction, and anybody who will want to enter Mount Kenya shall pass through this man. That clip remains. I've never seen a secondary clip against it. So who is the kingpin of Mount Kenya? We have two. We have Uhuru Kenyatta being the king, and we have his son, Eric Mungai. So I believe that him saying that he's not interested with that, he's appeasing the fight that has been there, the social fight, because this is not political, of who leads the community. Does it mean now he's left it to Uhuru to guide the community? Does it mean now whatever Uhuru will say shall score, and he will not take people astray? Because another king has said, because already he's saying he doesn't wish to. But again, he comes to the church and says, I'm coming here to bring peace within you people to work together. As who now again?
That's it. That's the question that I want to ask you. That's the question that I want to ask you.
Aren't you saying this?
That's it.
And still meaning another thing?
That's it.
You're bringing them together to work together in Kiambu so that wrangle stop, nini, as who? Then you should have said, I am not the king. The king has always been Nani. Kindly let's seek guidance of Nani, who is Uhuru, so that Uhuru may call us and make peace. Another kingpin in Mount Kenya is RUTO. And to the person who said, I'm not the kingpin, I've given the kingship to RUTO. So, if RUTO is the king, which I've never known such happens, that another community leader can be a king in another community, I've never heard, though that one is happening in Mount Kenya Kikuyu Nation. Hail to Kikuyu people, because that is synonymous with you.
Yes.
That can never happen in Luo, where I come from.
Yes.
We can never do that. So, if that is it, then RUTO should have gone there and done that. The last time Deputy was in Mwangaza's place in Meru, he said he's coming to bring peace in Meru. And he's talked to Mwangaza, he's talked to the wrangling leadership, and they're going to be peace. What happened? Mwangaza is dethroned, and now Mwangaza is going to face a full house. Last week on Monday, when I was seated here, I said, if Mwangaza faces an 11-team committee, she will survive. But if she faces a committee of a full house, she's home. Nobody faces that team and wins. Because a decision has already been made. It's going to be tabled on the full house. Because you cannot table a full house something to be debated. It comes from a committee. Then from committee, it is tabled to full house. Committee can decide to bring it with recommendation. Mm-hmm. And that recommendation are tabled and it goes back. So now it has bypassed the committee. So it's coming to the full house. From where? Who brings everything to the house? The leader of majority. So the leader of majority is bringing what has already been decided. By who? By the government. Which government? Of course, UDA. To the table. So now what will happen? This lady is going home. On Thursday, this lady is home. And the deputy shall become the governor. So what is the game playing there? Someone wants to control Meru, and looks like this lady, being a different mind, she went in with her own name as Kawira and won without backing of any party. Yes. So she looked more powerful that she could take away the Meru people and control the game. Now, someone had to cut her down, and it was going to happen. Kiambu is the next one, and it will happen. We are going to have a new governor in Kiambu. That one I've said it many times. The deputy shall become the governor. Though the deputy will not be the governor 2027. We'll have another governor in 2027, which is not Wamatangi nor her deputy, his deputy. So 2027, we'll have either Alice Wahome or Ishungwa as governors in Kiambu. But now Kiambu have a problem, and people of Kiambu should listen to this.
The kingpin is there, isn't it?
No. Yes. They should listen to this. Kiambu, every 5 years, you have a problem with your governors. We have lost Kabogo. After Kabogo, we had 2 governors that came in. Governor, he's called who? Ferdinand Waititu. Then Nyoro. Yes. Now we have a governor. Another governor, who is now again leaving for you to get another governor. This is what happens in such a scenario, and Eric will allow and he'll agree with me. This is not politics. He's now talking to our people because I'm from Kiambu. The minute a woman changes men, you will, by the time you're changing 4 men, or a man changes women, by the time you're marrying the 4th woman, surely you've lost track. You will not know where your other kids for the first woman went, second, third. What I'm trying to say to my people of Kiambu, why can't you be like Makueni? Why can't you be like Nandi? Other counties, Kisumu. I'm just giving an example. I'm not like saying they are better. Yeah. Even if they have a bad governor, why can't you stay with that governor at least to finish a term? Because you will not, well, now you get another governor. By the time she acclimatizes, another one is here. Acclimatizes, you remove another one. You will not develop. You will have lost 20 years, which you have. Kisumu is ahead of you 20 years. Makueni is ahead of you 20 years. Where is Kiambu that should be doing? Kiambu leads in cabbage and Nyandarua, sorry. In cabbage what? Farming. They lead in cattle rearing. They should be having industries that have been done by the county, such as Kitui, such as Makueni, such as what Kisumu is doing. But what they are doing, they are fighting. Kiambu should be giving us Kiambu County milk in packets. They can do it. Why aren't they doing it? Because other than thinking on development, they're thinking of how I should remove Eric, and Rono gets in, then I plan on Rono's downfall, Nani gets in, they are planning on each other's, it's cutting each other's leg. Okay. Kiambu, will you grow? Kiambu, you will not grow. Other counties that you think they are poor, they may not be poor. And this is what people think always, and I'm going to be a negative side. People think Kiambu are very rich. The more you have, the more you need to have. So your likelihood of being poor is very high. Go to places where people think they are poor. They are not. They develop very fast with the small things they have, and they do very well. That's why in Kiambu people, you hear ati wanapoa 3,000 ya basari, Mandera mtu analipua 400,000 university mzima. Because of such things. Now Kiambu will not develop because of these leadership wrangles all the time. How do you have 4 governors in 20 years? In 10 years? That is wrong. That is more wrong than it is right. And they should wake up and leave Wamatangi to finish 10 years if it is possible. So that Wamatangi, even if it is so bad, he's rolled something. We may not say Moi was good. We may not say Kibaki was good. We may not say Uhuru was good. Everyone, even RUTO is not good. I'm not saying he's not good. People should not take negative. I'm saying may not be good. Yes. But from RUTO, we will pick something. From Kibaki, we picked something. From Uhuru, we did pick something. Even that Moi, we picked something. We are from Moi generation, my friend. I was in class 1, 2, Moi generation. I may not say he was in totality bad. So if Wamatangi is really bad, do you need to change him? Katikati ya term. Can't we leave someone finish? Ama Eric na mnagani bana. Ongea na watu wako king.
Eric, this is a question I want to ask you now. I mean, if you look at what Gachagua is doing right now, despite him saying, well, I'm not interested in kingpin politics. I mean, is he trying to solve the Meru issues? Is he trying to solve the Kiambu issues within that particular region? I mean, Eric, for you, from how you're looking at it, what is bedeviling Kiambu County, and what do you think is the fate for Kawira Mwangaza now that she's not going to face just a select committee, she's going to face an entire plenary sanction? And in this particular issue for kingpinship,
you know, I have observed Meru and I have observed Kiambu, and one of the things I must say is that the Swahilians say, if you see your friend's head being shaved, start putting water on yours, otherwise you must be shaved dry. What that means is that Wamatangi must pay particular attention to what is happening in Meru. And especially with the intervention of the Deputy President, I am a bit concerned. I know the Deputy President means well when he wants to bring the region together.
Yes.
But I'm a bit concerned because if he intervenes in Meru and the governor is impeached, and he alluded to that yesterday, and he intervenes in Kiambu, and again Kiambu fails, there's a likelihood that some politicians might say, you know, how are you
sincere,
kingpin or sincere in quotes, if your 2 counties in your backyard, you've been unable to manage the political wrangles. And therefore, I think the Deputy President must be very careful not to be seen as if his efforts are futile. Because then in terms of mediation process, then you get very low marks in terms of your intervention. But having said that, I come from Kiambu County and I vied for the position of governor in Kiambu.
Yes.
And the people of Kiambu decided that I was not the best fit and that Wamatangi was the best fit for them. But be that as it may, we all seek the collective good of the county. And the reality is, there are some things when I look at the Governor Wamatangi, I do not understand how he works. For instance, Muranga was given an EPZ the other day. And why an EPZ is important is because then you attract investors, and the investors knows that when they come into your jurisdiction, then there are tax rebates, there are tax incentives that are offered to them. Now we have a scenario in Kiambu County where the 12 legislatures coming from the 12th constituency had to sign and write a letter to the CS for Trade, CS Miano, to request for an EPZ to come to the county. You know, it's very disheartening when we give you the presidency of a county and yet it is seen perceptively that you're the one failing the people living within that particular jurisdiction. I mean, it's a valid concern. Secondly, I fail to understand, being a member coming from that county, how to date Wamatangi has been unable to appoint several CECs. Like, I don't get it. Is it that we don't have people coming from Kiambu who you can entrust and say that we give you this docket to? Is it that maybe even if not from the county, maybe the entire country, you say that, I don't trust people from Kiambu, but for the sake of the people of Kiambu, let me appoint someone from Nakuru who is more competent and they can come and work on behalf of the people of Kiambu. I think, to me, from that perspective, there is need to persuade, if it is possible, Wamatangi to just listen to the cries of the people of Kiambu. I know he has said it time and again that he's protecting money, that money should not be stolen. But Simba, money belongs to the people. You cannot incubate money belonging to the people of Kiambu. You are incubating it to multiply. For whose benefit? Because at the end of the day, the people of Kiambu must benefit from your own revenue collection. And secondly, they must benefit from the money that comes from the national government. And therefore, it is to persuade the governor that there is room for leadership, but there is equal room for politics. And why are both important? Wamatangi must realize that Kibaki was a very good economist and he ran the country very well, but he failed us in terms of politics. Now, his failure politically plunged this country into chaos in 2007. We lost a lot of Kenyan lives out of Kibaki's inability to manage politics. And therefore, Wamatangi has lessons to draw from those that have gone ahead of him and realize that he must cultivate a working relationship with a majority, not everyone, with a majority of the MCAs and with a majority of the members of parliament. Why am I saying a majority? Because it's not possible for everyone to agree with you. But it cannot be, Simba, that you are unable to persuade the MCAs, you are unable to persuade the members of parliament, you are unable to persuade the president to give you an EPZ, you are unable to persuade the CS. I mean, for heaven's sake, how is it possible that you cannot? Who has the problem? Sometimes we can say, okay, maybe the MPs have a problem, and we agree. Maybe Alice Ganga has a problem. Kemani Shongwa is your enemy. Kawanjiko, you don't see eye to eye. Maybe we can say all those are your enemies. Okay, fair enough. But what about the MCAs? What have they done to you? Can't you cultivate a working relationship? Because either way, you need them to pass your bills. Yes. You need them to pass your CECs. Okay, maybe even you have a problem with the MCAs. But what about CECs? Can't you bring in CECs on board who can help you govern? So mine is to say that Wamatangi, because something tells me, my inner conscience tells me that the reconciliation efforts will not bear fruit. There might be a lull. The storm might come for 2 weeks. But the thing is, the MCAs will come back. There will be an impeachment motion against Wamatangi. But mine is to persuade Wamatangi. I know I was his competitor. I am still running in 2027. But it does not benefit me if he fails, because then the people of Kiambu become a laughing stock and we all of us fail.
Pretty much. Ronald, just take 4 minutes, please, to clear this conversation. Yes, and I'm gonna ask you this. Yes, actually, after you speak, won't speak. We'll be stepping out of the studio. Okay. Here's the thing, they're saying that if you look at majority of the critics, and I'm gonna read a comment here from one Moses Simon, who's saying this morning, that if you look at the wrangles within the Mount Kenya region, that is Kiambu and now Meru, they're saying that it is a design prior to 2027 election. They continue to say that somebody in government is asking themselves the questions, where do I take my people? Their chances to place them somewhere in 2027.
Let me answer you, Elijah.
Yes.
Succession politics are real. Very real.
Yes.
And we have avoided talking about it for a long time. And and we are requested not to talk about it, and we encourage ourselves not to talk about it. But I will clearly tell you that for you to make an impact in 2032, for you to survive the transition of 2032, where William Ruto will retire, God willing, if he wins the 2027 election, of which we pray he wins the 2027 election.
Yes.
That government that is going to be formed in 2032 is going to heavily depend on the people who will be on power then. Who are these people in power? Members of parliament, MCAs, governors, and senators. Why? Because anybody who would want to run for president would need to go to Elgeyo Marakwet, Keyo South, and look for the MP so that the MP can mobilize people for him. He has to go to Nandi and look for the governor of Nandi between 27 and 32 to give him the structure and the platform to run for presidency. You get the point? Now that is where the game is. However, this game that is being this jockey that is being done here is very catastrophic, because it is so sad that the population can elect somebody, then the law allows a group of people seated somewhere who are also elected to make determination of that person who was elected by the rest of the people. It is sad, but it is the reality. And I will go to the issue about Meru. Meru is in a very interesting place. Meru is a place where there are so many powerful men in this government who come from Meru. And that really worries everybody about the situation, the political situation of Meru, because it looks like now the other side of the Mount Kenya has woken up to realize we can be in government and we can form government. And there is somebody somewhere playing the card. But this card is not only political, it's also cultural. The people of Meru are, most of the things, determining factor is the enduring check. Yes. And lately you realize Kiraito Murungi handed over the baton to Mithika Linturi as the spokesman of Meru, as the elder of Meru. The one to give the political direction in Meru is Mithika Linturi. But you remember Mithika Linturi lost an election. Remember Kiraito Murungi alijikoroga. He went back and forth trying to be in UDA, trying to be in Azimio, trying to be with Uru, tried his party, the Bas party, but it did not take off. But again, time has gotten up with him politically, because the time for political attrition had come, and it had come in handy for everybody. But the people of Meru stood against all the odds and elected a woman. They elected a woman governor on an independent ticket. Knowingly. And it is a place that had the president and UDA had the greatest support. Meru. And that is why you see the Inspector General of Police coming from Meru. The Cabinet Secretary for Interior, we have very, very powerful Cabinet Secretary, is coming from Meru. The Cabinet Secretary for Agriculture is coming from Meru. And the people of Meru decided to knowingly queue and vote Kawira Mwangaza, who was before then the women representative, if I'm not wrong, right? So this is the second time they are voting Kawira Mwangaza. They are not fools. It is my prayer that we allow the will of the people to continue to its exhaustion. The fight about Kawira Mwangaza is not only the fight against the will of the people, is the fight also against women. Because the 2/3 general had been sorted out by the Meru people naturally. But now it seems some people seated somewhere have decided to conspire against this one woman who has stood up against the odds and beaten the men and became a governor. That is the sad part of the politics. But for Kiambu, yes.
15 seconds.
Kiambu are jokers. How do you have 4 governors in 10 years? How do you get Waititu out? How sure are we if we impeach these governors, the deputy governors are going to perform better? Or we are going again to impeach the deputy governor, then the speakers of the assembly becomes better. Then we'll have to impeach them again. We rather amend this constitution. Yes. When a governor is impeached, we go to an election.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
make it hard.
Yes, impeach governor. Let's go back to elections.
No better way than to end this conversation. It's coming at a time when the governors themselves, by the way, are calling on the COG, who's Anne Waiguru herself, that they need protection from the MCAs in the county assemblies. How is that case going to go? Like I said, we'll be live tomorrow at the Senate from the time those proceedings begin up to the time when they end. Thank you very much for being a part and parcel of this particular show this morning. The kingpin on Kenya region is Excellency Eric Mungai. Thank you very much. Eric Regalo and Ronald, always a pleasure to have you around, man. Thank you very much. Tomorrow is a day to do this again. Goodbye.
We value your feedback and welcome your complaints about our programming and